Causes of intimacy anorexia. In this segment, I want to take a minute and just pause. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to be an intimacy anorexic. I want to withhold love from my spouse. I want to put them in pain. Now, they do that, but it necessarily wasn't what they woke up to plan to do. There's causes for intimacy anorexia. There's causes for any addictive pattern, okay? Now, addiction doesn't rob you of the choice. Someone still has a choice to drink, to use drugs, to overeat, to overwork, or to withhold love. Okay, so if someone's withholding love, they still have a choice. The choice may be rooted in the addiction process of intimacy anorexia that might have a cause. Understanding the causes might help you, if you're married to someone who is in intimacy anorexia, to maybe have some compassion or understanding. It doesn't mitigate their responsibility to love you, and it gives them maybe more insight into how to dismantle this. So let me go through these briefly. Number one, sexual trauma. If someone's been sexually abused, the chances of them closing off their heart and shutting down spiritually and emotionally, and maybe even sexually, that's a pretty common thing that can happen. Now, some people use the sexual trauma and they go into other ways of medicating and dealing with it. But it is possible, a significant amount of people who have intimacy anorexia have sexual trauma. You know, I've had men and women in my office who've been sexually abused, and that really paralyzed them emotionally. And so that is one cause. Another cause is attachment issues with the cross-gender parent. So if it's a boy, he couldn't attach to mom. Maybe mom was volatile, she was unsafe, maybe they were divorced, maybe she was emotionally distant herself, disconnected, maybe she had a psychological disorder like borderline or some other thing, or she was unsafe. So his little boy heart tried to attach to mom, but couldn't. And he generalized that he can't attach to women. The same with a little girl. She's trying to attach to dad who's distant, who's busy, who's deployed, who's whatever reason, maybe he's unsafe, he's angry, he's volatile, can't connect to him. Generalizes, I can't connect to men, and that men can't be connected to, or it's unsafe if you connect to a man. So these are things they can learn in childhood that can be dismantled, but it could be a cause. Sexual addiction all by itself can create intimacy anorexia. The person can grow up in a perfectly good family, have attachment with both parents and all that kind of stuff, but find pornography and begin to masturbate to that. And what happens is when you have a sexual encounter, you get these endorphins and enkephalins, hits the excitement center of your brain, and boom, you attach to whatever you're looking at. So ring the bell, feed a dog, ring the bell, feed a dog. They create this huge neuropathic attachment in their brain to an object world. The object world requires no intimacy, never talks back, has no needs, has no soul, is not a person that needs to be cared for. And they take the highest chemical reward and attach to an object. So they believe object relationship is the only thing they can do. It's the only thing they're good at. So they can have sex without intimacy, or intimacy without sex, but sex and intimacy is required in a marriage. That can be really challenging for them. And so sexual addiction can be a cause for intimacy anorexia. And if it is, sexual addiction will need to be treated. And you can go to our website, sexaddict.com. There's lots of resources there. I've written many books on that subject. I have a whole training, 47 hours, 200 academic references for people who want to know more about that, or counselors who want to get certified. Sex addiction is a real deal and needs to be treated. But if you have both, you need to treat both at the same time, because they're connected little guys. And if one doesn't get better, the other doesn't get better. If this one doesn't get better, the sex addiction doesn't get better. So if sex addiction is in the life, you want to know. And if you're living with an intimacy anorexic, and especially if it's a man, and you're not having sex on any kind of regular basis, you want to ask about masturbation and pornography, because sex addiction may be what's holding the anorexia intact. Lastly, role model neglect. And that is where both parents growing up, you couldn't attach to either one. Neither one was available to you emotionally. It was kind of like growing up in a sterile environment, and you just generalized that attachment isn't going to happen. You just gave up probably before you were 4 or 5 years old. And you just do life without attaching because it's not possible. And you see their relationship, and you saw the way they neglected each other, and it was a function ship. That's the best you saw. And so that's all your experience is. And so even believing there is more is kind of challenging. So these are 4 reasons or 4 causes for intimacy anorexia. And again, this can help dismantle it. They have to deal with these issues. And it doesn't not in any way take responsibility away for their choices. They still choose how they behave towards you as a spouse. And then they can change how they behave towards you.